This is Felt Recoil.
Welcome to the Felt Recoil Podcast, episode number 25. My name is Kris. Straight across from the glass-topped desk I sit at right now is Mr.
Classy-looking desk.
Yeah, well.
And I'm Patrick.
Thank you, sir. Sad news to start the podcast. Christopher Big Black Boykin passed away. Heart attack.
Do work.
Do work.
Do work, son.
45 years old, I believe.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Interesting fact, he had a 9-year-old daughter named Isis. I was trying to do some math to see if he should have known better.
That's terrifying.
But, yeah, man, if you ever watched Robin Big on MTV, it was about the only good thing MTV's pushed out in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I couldn't name another show on MTV.
Nope. I never really did watch MTV until those guys, and then there was a reason to watch. They were a lot of fun. They were always clean. You know, it wasn't like the crap they have now where you're vulgar just to draw attention. You know, Dennis Miller once said that, let's see here. Now I'm forgetting. What did he say? Contrariety.
This could go anywhere.
Yeah, it's this. Contrariety is the rhetoric of the ignorant. Was that right? Contrariety. I think I'm conflating his quote with profanity being the rhetoric of the ignorant. Oh, contrariety is the creativity, is how he said it. Contrariety is the creativity, and what that has always meant to me is that when you're not smart enough to formulate an argument, you just disagree with everybody around you. When you're not smart enough to decide why being transgendered is odd, you just accept it. Because if everybody else is going against it, well, I'll just be for it. And then that makes me feel smart because I'm too dumb to know any better. And that's where MTV is these days. Everything they do is because their people aren't smart enough to come up with better content. They recently made news for having gender-neutral music awards, which is, I thought they were pretty much always that way. You'd have Song of the Year, Album of the Year. It doesn't matter who sang it, who wrote it. Male or female, but anyway, all that said, the only thing good on MTV is half gone now, so that's incredibly sad. It's an interesting thing. I don't really get worked up when famous people die, usually because we just mourn because they were famous and they didn't leave a lasting impact anywhere outside of being on a TV show. But he was a good family guy, it looks like. Like I said, 9-year-old daughter. And
holds 2 Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah.
One for most powdered donuts in 3 minutes at 5. And then also most bananas in 1 minute, which is 3.
Nice. I hope nobody ever tries to break it. Just, like in memoriam, just let him have his records,
Yep.
But it'd be kind of odd to meet the person.
You remember the episode when they went to his hometown? I think he's in like Mississippi or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
And his uncle came on the show.
Yes.
His uncle was the best character.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
almost
old
unbelievable.
School. Yeah.
That was good stuff.
Old school black guy. Anyway, so that made me sad to read. But such is life, I guess. If we could cue up the Lion King soundtrack, we would. I do need to ask you a favor, Mr. Hulon. I need you to ask your mom a question. Am I right that your mom works in a doctor's office?
Yes.
Can you ask her about this rash?
Wait a minute.
Oh, no, wait. Legit, maybe if you've ever had this, you tell me, but I need to know what exactly the nurse tells the doctor in the interim after the nurse talks to me. So there's that space of time where the nurse comes in and is all your health history current, and you go yes or no, and then, oh, it looks like you've gained a little weight. Oh, your blood pressure's through the roof. Oh, and then they lecture you, and then they leave, and I always wonder, how much are they telling the doctor? Because it's like he comes in and has the exact same questions, and I need to know.
I will give her a call.
Here's why I need to know, because it really was awkward, but fun for me. If you don't know, one time I had cancer, and it was tragic. No, it wasn't tragic at all, actually. But I did have thyroid cancer, and I never took it very seriously because they told me at the outset it's not a big deal. We'll take your thyroid out. You'll take a couple of pills every morning. You'll be on your way. Okay, great. But if I can induce drama, then by God, I will, especially now that everything's okay. Yeah. So I had a specialist I had seen 2 months before I got diagnosed with cancer. And what happened was I saw him, and one thing when your thyroid breaks down that is legitimate is everything about your body can begin to break down. You will gain weight. You'll be moody. You'll be sleep deprived. You'll just feel like you're getting really, really old real fast, and you can't figure it out why. And if your thyroid is out of whack, then that's just something that can happen. So I went to a certain specialist who was looking to diagnose one problem. Maybe, I can help you figure out what's going on here. And a month later, the doctor found the nodule on my thyroid, my regular doctor, during my annual physical. And I was supposed to go back to the specialist a month after that appointment. So 4 weeks after the specialist, I have an appointment with my doctor, and I'm a month out from my specialist follow-up at that point. Well, I get sent over to have a biopsy done, which is terribly uncomfortable, especially in your neck. But my point is, the thyroid issue kind of took precedent, right? So I had to go back to the same specialist this week just to follow up. And I go in, and the nurse comes in, and she says, so any changes in your health history? And I say, yeah, actually, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and they removed my thyroid, and I take Synthroid, 200, I think I'm at 250 milligrams every day. And she goes, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Is everything okay? She's real sweet about it. Yeah, everything's fine. So the doctor comes in, and remember, this happened somewhere around 1.5 years ago, all at like the original diagnosis, okay? And the doctor comes in and sits down, and he goes, so, Mr. Vermillion, I told you to come see me in 8 weeks, and you decided 18 months would be a better idea. And I chuckle because I think, sorry. And then and so I'm looking at him, he's looking at me. And I go, so I got cancer, and they had to do surgery and radiation. And he goes, and I could tell, like, I made him feel like a jerk.
Got him.
Yeah, gotcha. And then I go, she didn't lay that on you? Like, there was no, you guys didn't, hey, are you headed in to see Kris? Hey, real quick, by the way, he had cancer, that's why I never came back. Just so you might want to know,
Soften the blow for him a little bit.
So I know he felt bad, and I actually thought it was pretty funny. Like, I was like, oh, yeah, well, cancer and all that. But it did lead me to the question of, I need to know, there's a lot of things when you go to the doctor that you wonder, why are we going through this?
So is the question,
again?
Do they talk at all? Is that what you really want to know?
No, I want to know what exactly gets said. If I find out they don't talk at all, I'm going to be pretty mad. Like, what is she doing in there if they don't talk at all? If you're not the doctor, don't take 20 minutes of my time to talk about talking to the doctor. I don't need that.
She's taking notes, and then she hands them off, and then he just doesn't bother to read them, maybe?
That's what I'm thinking is most likely. He should probably, to be fair, my general practitioner, the doctor I see, the doctor that found the nodule and sent me off for the biopsy, I didn't see him again until the year mark after he found the nodule. And he walked in and goes, so how's everything been? I said, real good. And he sits down at his little computer, starts pulling everything up, and he's like, so, yeah, okay. Looks like you lost. Okay, that's good. What? And he turns. So he sits in a chair at a computer, and his back's kind of to me, and I'm up on that, awkward table where you're just always praying you don't have to take your pants off,
Trying not to make noise on the paper.
Exactly. And he turns, he gets real quiet, and he turns, he goes, you had cancer? It's like, yeah. He goes, my goodness, I didn't know. I was like, well, how would you? I haven't seen you in a year. He's like, man, okay. But everything's all right? I was like, yeah, okay. So anyway, my own, the doctor I see the most didn't know. I can't blame the specialist too much, I guess. But yeah, so if there's 20 minutes of me filling her in on all the gaps of my life, and she's not telling the doctor, I feel like maybe I could just not talk to the nurse and see the doctor 20 minutes sooner. Is that logical? I think that's a logical conclusion here. But Either
They
way.
got to make you feel like you're getting your money's worth.
I would just like to hear from someone who actually works in the office, because the nurse was in there when all this happened. Like, she came back, and I was like, I almost wanted to say,
He should have looked at her and be like, "So you just didn't want to tell him, or what?"
you didn't send him a message on his beeper? ER
I was
style?
gonna say, was he on ER? What are you talking about? Is your doctor George Clooney?
Yeah, well, it would have made that invasion of privacy that much less bad for me. Anyway, all right. So I'd like to know.
We'll
give
get
me an
on
answer
it.
from your mom, because
If you had told me ahead of time, we could have just got her on the phone.
nah, it doesn't help the podcast for me to tell you ahead of time. I need sincerity. Okay.
Well, you're gonna get it from my mom.
Yeah, I know.
Pity, no.
No. But the 1-star review on our Facebook page, that is sincere. If Kris wasn't on it, it'd be 4 stars better. Thanks, Mama Hulon. Here's our big story of the day all across the country. FBI Director James Comey got the axe. My favorite part is he claims that he learned it on the news, that he saw Trump on TV firing him, and that's how he found out.
Yeah, I heard that rumor.
I hope that's true, because that's how Barack Obama heard everything as well.
Yeah, everything.
And
literally everything.
That's a perfect carryover from his tenure, is it not? If his entire administration only heard things on the news, it only makes sense that, Trump gets up. And what better guy? I mean, could it be more bad comedy writing than the guy that's famous for the TV show where he gets in front of the camera and just fires people that way, actually just got in front of the camera to fire somebody? It would make total sense. Are you going through this story? You want me to? The rundown. The last president to, and just remember, this is why this is important. So everybody's in meltdown mode now. They're comparing him to Richard Nixon, saying he only fired Comey because Comey was in the middle of an investigation. We'll come back to that in a minute. I can read it, or you can read it, Hulon.
Go for it.
I can't remember. Okay. Sorry. I've already forgotten who we assigned what to. So James Comey's abrupt firing, according to ABC News, as FBI director, took Washington and the nation by surprise. But he's not the first FBI chief to be dismissed by a president. William Sessions was the director of the FBI until July 19th, 1993, when he was fired by then President Bill Clinton. Sessions was affiliated with the Republican Party and nominated for the FBI director spot by then President Ronald Reagan. He served under Reagan and just about a year into Clinton's tenure and was given the axe. Political experts say Sessions remained partisan throughout his tenure. Now, that is ABC justifying why Sessions was fired. Democrats vociferously supported Sessions when he made an effort to include more minorities and women in the FBI. Sessions' lasting influence on the FBI extended beyond his diversification efforts. He also helped support a nationwide DNA program, as well as national fingerprint process. However, Sessions' ethics came into question just before then President-elect Bill Clinton was inaugurated. Sessions was accused of improperly using an FBI plane to visit his family, as well as reportedly installing a security fence around his home on the government's dime. A Justice Department report found that Sessions had avoided paying taxes on the use of his FBI limousine for his daily commute. So then Attorney General Janet Reno wrote a letter to Bill Clinton and said, "I've concluded that the director has exhibited a serious deficiency in judgment involving matters contained in the report. He does not command the respect and confidence needed to lead the Bureau and the law enforcement community in addressing the many issues facing law enforcement today." This is the lady, by the way, Janet Reno, writing this letter, who burned dozens of Americans alive, burned them to death.
It's all right when Democrats do it.
It's okay, I guess.
It's fine.
No problem. Talk about ethics problems and a serious deficiency in judgment. They burned Americans alive because one of them thought he was Jesus Christ. Yes, he was crazy. Koresh was crazy. But that doesn't mean you go in and burn women and children to death. It just doesn't mean you do that. So a little rich irony in retrospect there. But it's also worth noting that maybe we could point out that Sessions had no intent of breaking the law when he didn't pay his taxes.
That's a good point.
Maybe Sessions had no intent of breaking the law. To me, if I'm the director of the FBI, there's a bunch of people trying to kill me. Why shouldn't the government pay for a secure fence around my property? Makes sense to me. I didn't intend to break the law. I just let the government pay for something I thought they should pay for.
I'm good with it.
So now you have the director of the FBI who says, we know that Hillary Clinton twice broke federal law. He doesn't deny that. It's a very important thing to keep in mind. There's no denial on the part of the government that Hillary Clinton twice broke federal law. What they say is she never intended to break the law. There was no criminal intent, so they're not going to prosecute her. Again, coincidentally, that decision is reached shortly after then Attorney General Loretta Lynch gets on a plane with Bill Clinton and talks about their quote-unquote grandchildren for about half an hour. And, scratch in the back, right?
But can we talk about why Sessions was actually fired?
Sure.
Not the puff piece that ABC did?
Yeah, tell me.
You familiar with Travelgate? You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So he was investigating Hillary over Travelgate and the firings of a bunch of people. So it was a big controversy over how the White House was handling paying for travel, I guess. Does that sound right? I'm trying to fill in the blanks. I don't remember exactly. What I do know is that history has a way of repeating itself, and Hillary was being investigated then. She's been investigated again here recently. I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern.
No, not at all.
No, you're not?
No. What do you mean? So, like, you think Hillary has broken the law before?
Well, allegedly.
What? Travelgate, by the way, was after Bill became president in 93. Hillary allegedly engineered the firing of 7 employees of the White House Travel Office and the hiring of a firm. So she fires 7 employees and then hires a firm with ties to the Clintons to replace them. Multiple investigations absolved the president of involvement, but Hillary was found to have made false statements to investigators. When she convened her task force to create her husband's national health care program, it included multiple representatives from government, the health and insurance industries, and academics. Despite the obvious potential for conflicts of interest in closed deliberations, the task force's meetings were kept secret throughout its existence. So I think those two things are unrelated. This is kind of a rundown from the Washington Examiner. But basically, there's Travelgate. Travelgate is she fires White House travel office employees and then hires people with ties to them already. Sounds a lot like the Clinton Foundation, where it was pay to play. Saudi Arabia wants to give me $5 million.
Cronyism.
Selling the Russians.
Embezzlement.
Yeah, exactly. How much? What did we sell the Russians? Basically a third. The Russians now have control. Everybody's worked up about the Russian ties to the election. Hillary Clinton sold the Russians control of a third of America's uranium.
Nah, we don't need it.
You take this.
Just let them have it.
Yeah, you weaponize the uranium. And she did it because...
Hey, you guys make sure you share that with Iran. Okay?
Share and share like.
Hey, we don't need you guys fighting over it. Make sure you share.
It's perfect because this picture of her right here, where she's like waving her hand, it actually looks like that's what she could be saying.
Yeah, spread it around. Spread it around. Let everybody have a piece.
Hillary was probably as crooked as it gets as far as politicians go. So all that to say,
I was
going
to say, you're implying that somehow she's not like today.
You think she'll be back?
Oh, I'm not saying that she's going to come back. I'm just saying, even though she's not in public life, she's still crooked.
But in general, of course, she's a terrible person. She deserves to die a painful death. But in 2020, does Hillary come back and have Hillary 2.0?
I don't see it, man. How old is she going to be?
That's a great question.
73, 4?
Oh, no. She's already like 74, 75,
really?
Right? Hold on. I'll find out when she was born.
I don't know. She's a weird hag of a
Hillary
woman.
Clinton was born in 1947.
I'm never going to be that carnival barker that guesses their age.
She's going to be 70 this year. So, yeah, you're right. She'll be about 74, 75 when the next election rolls around.
Still a future yet for me at the carnival.
What if Hillary's next campaign, she could totally do Hillary 2.0, the emails are gone, or...
Like really gone?
Like no more emails. Yeah.
Was she just going to stop emailing all of a sudden?
Exactly. Any sort of reference to like, I'm not, I won't be emailing people anymore. Don't worry about it. You have to remember another strange thing about all of this. They want to blame Comey for Hillary's loss because he announced he was reopening the investigation. But understand that Comey and his team, as we played for you last week in the audio piece, found out that there were thousands of emails from Hillary on Anthony Weiner's hard drive. This is a guy who's sending nude photos through social media to underage girls, who is taking pictures of himself holding his genitalia with his infant son in the bed next to him. So that is child pornography, in my view. That makes him a pedophile. Like if you're willing to take pictures of yourself in a sexual manner with a child in the picture as well, that should be considered child pornography. He should go to jail for a very, very long time. So anyway, that dude, that weirdo, had thousands of classified emails on his computer thanks to Hillary Clinton and her incompetent staff. And yet those people aren't being run out of town. And now the guy who said, basically, I'm going to let her get away with it because she didn't mean to break the law. There was no criminal intent involved. She wasn't doing it for any criminal reasons. That guy just got fired, as he should have been in July of last year when we started learning all this stuff. Comey should have been gone a very, very, very long time ago. And the fact that Obama didn't get rid of Comey speaks volumes.
And all the Democrats wanted him gone back then, too.
Right.
So let's not forget how bad they wanted him gone right before the election.
How strange it is.
Now that Trump is the one getting rid of them, or getting rid of him, they're all really upset about it.
It's so strange. And so, obviously, you're going to see a lot of protesting and a lot of whining, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. All right, we have to dive into something else, internet-related. I made a little meme that I thought was funny this week, and we took a lot of heat for it on Facebook from some of our own friends who take issue with the fact. So basically, I found this picture of Antifa protesting in the streets of Louisiana.
Are you sure it was Antifa?
It looked like them.
Well, they look like ISIS to me. So
yeah, well, birds of a feather and all
Right.
that. So if you're not aware, Antifa marched in New Orleans this last weekend. And what an amazing world we live in, by the way. I literally got a cup of coffee and sat on my back porch at the table and put my laptop on the table outside. And my kids were playing in the yard, and I watched a live feed of the protests in New Orleans. What a strange, crazy time to be alive. So I'm watching this, and it occurs to me what's funny about it is they're marching to have all monuments of the Confederacy removed. And it occurs to me that I keep using the word irony tonight. I think I should stop. But what's so crazy about that is the fact that you have modern-day Democrats marching to have monuments for Democrats removed from the public square. And so I made a little meme of that, and then people took issue with the fact that I basically equated Democrats to Antifa, which I guess I can sort of understand that argument, but Antifa is without a doubt a fascist organization, if not communist, okay? And they're definitely touting the principles of socialism. I only know of one person that ran for president that embraces socialism, and he was a Democrat. So you can say that maybe there's a fissure between the two,
But it's just a strange thing to me that they're anti-fascists, yet they aim to limit free speech,
Right.
things of that nature.
And-
Which to me, and I don't know the actual definition of fascism. Maybe you can look that up. I don't know.
I got
But to me, that is what fascism is. To me, that's brown shirts. That's burning books. That's stopping a protest, and not letting people gather just to speak their minds, or just gather for the sake of gathering. Which I think off the show, you and I've had a conversation where I don't really understand why people are still having Trump rallies.
right.
Like, what the hell are you doing?
Just listen. This was all Trump was not about Trump. Okay.
Right.
Trump was what? He was proving a point.
Sure.
That we'll take anything over the status quo. We'll take anything outside the status quo. We don't want another trophy baby, which is what Obama was. Okay. He was black. There was an opportunity there for him to be the first black president. So we don't care about his terrible, terrible history and his terrible, terrible ties to terrible, terrible people. We don't care about any of that. We're going to forgive it all. We're going to sit on a lot of information. We're going to really cloud the truth as much as possible, and we're going to get the first black president in office. Trump, I stand by this. Trump supporters were very close kin to Barack Obama supporters. They didn't care too much about the substance. They just cared that it was someone other than the status quo.
Sure.
So the fascism answer to me and you, I think, is fascism is governance by force, right?
Sure.
And that's what I would, like you said, the brown shirts, which is a very astute observation, because what the brown shirts did, if you're not aware, is they went around and beat up Germans. And then Hitler said, I'll tell you what, I'll make the brown shirts stop, right? Just put me in office, I'll make them stop. But as we now know, the brown shirts were Hitler's people.
Yep.
So fascism, as defined, is a form of radical authoritarian nationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and control of industry and commerce. What else? I mean, is there any doubt that that is what's happening in the streets with Antifa? They are fascists. They are fascists. And there's no doubt that they want government control of industry and commerce.
So they claim to want to beat up Nazis and all this crap, right?
Because they believe, yeah.
Because sure. So they think that the Nazis are who's actually in power, their deluded minds. Here's what I want to see, though.
Yeah, Trump.
Right. Here's what I want to see. Mm-hmm. I want to see an actual, not neo-Nazi rally. Mm-hmm. And then I want to see Antifa show up, and there just be a big clash.
That would be awesome.
Because it seems to me that's not really where they're going to show up.
I mean, go find the Klan.
Right?
Yeah.
Go find the KKK. Go find some neo-Nazis, and then go whack them with a chain with a lock on the end of it or whatever.
Right.
Nobody will care. I mean, I'll be like, well, I mean, they were Nazis.
Yeah.
Cool, you whacked them. Whatever.
Right.
But my point is, those aren't the people they want to actually clash with.
Yeah, they want to clash with middle-aged white women who want to go out and support Donald Trump because they like the idea, okay? And listen, I'll be real clear. I don't think you have to be stupid to have supported Trump. Not at all, okay? But I do think there was a willing blindness to really examine the man as a principled person. The argument I make against Trump is that as I was on the fence about him and listened to him speak, he said one time that I heard, what are the three responsibilities of the government? What are the three most important things the government does? And he said healthcare, education, and the military. I disagree with 2/3 of that statement. The military I agree with, but healthcare is not the government's job, and neither should be the education of my children. Absolutely not. I don't agree with that. So I couldn't in good conscience go vote for the guy, so I didn't. Okay, I didn't like him then. I don't like him as a person now. He might be a great guy. I don't know. I wish him all the best. Right. I hope. People always say, if you remember, Rush Limbaugh got in trouble because he said he hoped Obama failed. Well, Obama had these radical policies he wanted to implement. He really would have taken the Second Amendment instead of. I mean, come on, let's not kid ourselves. Obama would have discarded the entire Constitution given the chance. I don't care if Trump succeeds. I don't think he'll fail, but I don't care if his agenda succeeds. What I care about is that Trump does what's right by the people and what's right by the rule of law. Excuse me. And I hope he sticks to that. And if he can do that, I'll be very happy for him. But I'm not going to say, well, I hope he is successful in whatever his ventures are, because I don't care what his ventures are. I just care that he does right by the people. If Trump was ready to do what's right by the people, by the way, he would be telling the Republicans in Congress, absolutely not on this health care replacement bill. He would say, absolutely not. We told him full repeal of Obamacare. We're not putting lipstick on the pig. We're going to fully repeal it. Again, I don't watch the news every night anymore, but I haven't read the article yet where that happened. Okay? So here's what's interesting. We characterize Antifa as Democrats. If they're not the same, they're definitely closely related. Again, Antifa are fascists. They want government control of commerce and industry, so they are therefore socialists, and they're expressing themselves violently, and they are violently intimidating anyone who disagrees with them. Look at what's happening in Venezuela. There's a great reflection.
It's utopia.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, man. Don't get ahead of yourself.
You're right.
It's the greatest place on earth. It's basically Disney World.
Disney World, Venezuela, where everyone gets in free to die. And that's the point, right? So Venezuela's falling apart. It's laughable how poorly socialism has worked out for them. And Bernie Sanders wishes that for you. That's what Bernie wants for America. And it has never succeeded. It's never worked.
The point you're making is these are Bernie's people.
That's right. So there's a long-winded explanation that there's no one else for them to support in American politics outside of Bernie Sanders. And I would bet my bank account that if you went and polled the crowd and said, who did you vote for? 90% of them at least are going to be Bernie Sanders supporters. So a bigger point I want to make, in case you're unaware, because you hear this a lot. You hear people say, well, Democrats started the KKK, and Democrats, they were the Confederacy. And then people go, yeah, but the party switched, and now modern-day Republicans are what the Democrats were back then. Okay. So that's false, okay? And I want to dive just a little deep, just take a couple of minutes and lay this out for you, okay? Just a couple of minutes. There's 4 books you should read, okay? If you read these 4 books, you will gain an understanding of the history of the United States that I can't give you. But these 4 books will. Read American History in Black and White. Read A Patriot's History of the United States. Read Dred Scott's Revenge. And read The Legacy of Arab Islam in Africa. Okay? So you read those 4 books, and you will understand that the Democratic Party of today is the same as the Democratic Party of the 1960s and the 1850s and before. And they are the people who introduced slavery to the United States. They are the people who subjugated black Americans to slavery and fought for them to stay there. A couple of key points you should be made aware of, okay? First of all, there's so much here. I'll try to not get too lost into this, okay? But let's put it on Governor Morris here. We'll start with him. Governor Morris signed the Constitution and was an outspoken critic of slavery. He said, quote, "Upon what principle is it that slaves should be computed in the representation? Are they men? Then make them citizens and let them vote. But the admission of slaves into the representation comes to this, that the inhabitant of Georgia and South Carolina who goes to the coast of Africa and, in defiance of the most sacred laws of humanity, tears away his fellow creatures from their dearest connection and damns them to the most cruel bondage, shall have more votes in a government instituted for the protection of the rights of mankind than the citizens of Pennsylvania or New Jersey, who views with a laudable horror so nefarious a practice." So in modern English, the guy that's willing to enslave people will now have more votes in the Congress than the man who says all men should be free in a nation founded on the idea that all men should be free. John Quincy Adams said, "The first step of the slaveholder to justify by argument the peculiar institutions of slavery is to deny the self-evident truths of the Declaration of Independence. He denies that all men are created equal, and he denies that they have inalienable rights." All right. Here's a quick fact, by the way. Prince Whipple and Oliver Cromwell fought alongside George Washington during the American Revolution, helping him safely cross the Delaware River. And if you look at the famous painting of the crossing of the Delaware, you'll see both of them in it. Okay? Peter Salem was a black man that fought at Bunker Hill. James Armistead was a black patriot spy who was crucial in securing victory at Yorktown, which pushed America to victory as an independent nation. Black Americans have ties to the revolution that set all men free. This is important because right after the revolution, right after we became a nation, within 20 years, we actually outlawed slavery with the Northwest Ordinance, right? Are you aware of that? If you don't know, it was adopted in July 13th of 1787 by the Second Continental Congress. It chartered a government for the Northwest Territory, provided a method for admitting new states to the Union, and listed a Bill of Rights guaranteed in the territory. Following Thomas Jefferson's outline, the author spelled out a plan that was subsequently used as the country expanded to the Pacific. The bill included, quote, "a Bill of Rights protecting religious freedom, the right to a writ of habeas corpus, the benefit of trial by jury, and other individual rights, and included the forbidding of slavery." Okay? That's 1787. Okay? All right, Second Continental Congress, just so you know. So I don't even know that we were officially a nation yet. Was it 81? 1776 was a declaration. Yeah. And then, so I think we were just a few years old.
Yeah.
Where are we at here? 81. Yeah, so about 6 years old at that point. All right, Hiram, this is where it gets important. if you hear nothing else, listen to this. Hiram Revels was a senator from Mississippi. He replaced Jefferson Davis, who left office to be the president of the Confederate States. Hiram Rhodes Revels was argued. Okay, let me start back here. Senator Stockton was a Democrat from New Jersey who argued against seating Senator Revels, alleging he didn't have proper credentials to serve. The Senate Judiciary Committee voted straight along party lines on Senator Revels. Every Republican supported him, each Democrat opposed, and Revels got the seat. Jefferson Davis, a Democrat, left his Senate seat to go be president of the Confederate States, and a black Republican took his place. Consider as well that all 7 of the first black Americans elected to Congress were Republicans. Republicans worked hard to show their support for black Americans as the elections of blacks gave the Republican Party a strong majority in Congress. The first 42 black legislators from Texas were all Republicans. In Louisiana, the first 95 black representatives were Republicans. The first 32 black senators as well. In Alabama, the first 103 blacks elected to the state legislature were Republicans. In Mississippi, the first 112. In South Carolina, the first 190. In Virginia, the first 46. In Florida, the first 30. North Carolina's first 30 black state legislators were Republicans as well. And in Georgia, 41 blacks were elected to the state legislature, all of them Republicans. Okay? Here's a story worth remembering. Not all Democrats were bad people. Some of them even had strokes of genius when it came to ways to combat slavery and establish equality in America. One such notion struck in 1854 when a number of anti-slavery Democrats in Congress joined forces with the Whigs, Free Soilers, and emancipationists to fight slavery and work toward equal rights for black Americans. They did so by forming a new political party, a coalition of the free, a party they would call the Republican Party. Freedom and equality for all, free choice cloaked in individual liberty, inalienable rights granted to all men by God himself. 1854, the founding of the Republican Party. One of the founders of the new party was Charles Sumner, the senator from Massachusetts, who had won the seat of founding father Daniel Webster. Sumner fought for the integration of public schools and argued the issue before the state Supreme Court in Boston. In 1856, Sumner gave a speech that took 2 days to deliver on slavery. While Sumner argued that civility and liberty be offered equally to all men, as is accorded in the Constitution, Democratic Representative Preston Brooks from South Carolina came from the House Rotunda, across the Capitol, burst into the Senate chamber, and beat Sumner mercilessly with a club. It took Sumner 3.5 years to recover. When he regained his strength, he rejoined the Senate and immediately delivered a return address focused on the inhumanity of slavery. More important points. Here you go. The 1856 Democratic platform of the party, the same year of the Sumner beating, said, quote, "All efforts of the abolitionists are calculated to lead to the most alarming and dangerous consequences, and all such efforts shall have an inevitable tendency to diminish the happiness of the people." Again, that is all efforts of the abolitionists, people looking to end slavery. In 1866, Democrats correlated with a corrupt New Orleans police force and the Democratic mayor at the time to attack the Republican convention, literally attack it. The Democrats rushed the convention swinging, mauling, and beating Republicans black and white alike. In the end, 40 black and 20 white Republicans were dead, while 150 of their fellow party members were wounded. 9 years later, Democrats would rush the floor of the Louisiana legislature and violently force out the elected black Republicans. Federal troops arrived to restore order. In 1866, the Democrats formed another coalition, a group that would eventually become national and gain attention, and whose stated purpose was to, quote, "break down the Republican government and pave the way for Democrats to regain control in the elections." 13 volumes composed the congressional investigation of 1872 into the founding of this group, and testimony from South Carolina Democrat E.W. Siebel's 1871 appearance before Congress reads, quote, "They belong to the Reform Party, that is, our party, the Democratic Party. They were the Ku Klux Klan." The violence and rage of the Klan was not limited to black Americans. Republican U.S. Representative Joseph Rainey said, "Because he has dared to become a Republican, he has become the doomed victim of the murderous Ku Klux Klan." 3 years after the Civil War, the 14th Amendment came up for a vote in Congress. This amendment would allow all former slaves full rights of citizenship. 94% of the Republicans in Congress voted for the amendment. Not a single Democrat supported it. Some notables of the 1868 Democratic Convention included 25 Confederate generals, 30 Confederate colonels, 10 majors, 20 Confederate captains and other minor Confederate officers, 5 governors, 15 Confederate Congress members, and 105 total Confederate members made up that Congress. Okay? Now, that's a lot. You can listen to it again if you want to, but here's the main point. That's the strongest case against the Democratic Party of the 19th century you're going to find. So you fast forward to 1957 and 1964. Those are the two civil rights acts of the 20th century that everybody talks about. Remember this, when those came up for a vote, Democrats opposed civil rights legislation by a margin of 4-1 against Republicans, meaning for every 4 Republicans that voted in favor of it, 1 Democrat voted in favor of it. The vast majority of Democrats voted in opposition to both civil rights pieces of legislation. That is called the realignment theory. That's something they teach in colleges today. It's absolutely not true that the parties switched platforms. You can't find that anywhere. It's not quantifiable.
The fact that they call it realignment theory,
right,
speaks volumes.
Exactly,
because
right.
the theory is what? It's
right.
just a theory.
Just whatever might have happened.
I'll tell you what it's not.
Maybe.
Fact.
Right. Not even close. Not even close.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
And I don't mean to take away from all that you just said, because there was a lot.
Take away.
There was some good information there. A lot of things I didn't know. But are you on this tear today because Wednesday, May the 10th, is Confederate Memorial Day?
I did not know that. Is it really?
It really is.
We sit here now on Confederate Memorial Day. No. That is very interesting. I honest to God did not know that. What do they celebrate on Confederate Memorial Day?
They're honoring the Confederate dead.
Okay. All right. You know, so it's an interesting thing because a lot of history people will tell you, well, the Civil War was not about slavery. It was about states' rights. That's the most common argument. And it was. It was about the state wanting the right to own black people. Like, there were other nuanced things in there, I'm sure. We know that Lincoln didn't necessarily play by all the rules, okay? We know he taunted Fort Sumter and, quote-unquote, encouraged them to attack a trade ship so he'd have an excuse. But it worked, and then they went to war, and the North won. But all of that aside, so let's just say I want to celebrate because I'm from the South. As long as you're willing to admit that the South then was controlled by Democrats, and the South you celebrate was controlled by Democrats, and that those Democrats are the same as today's Democrats, celebrate all you want. What's funny to me is you always run into these guys that most likely voted for Trump, but still want to fly their Confederate flags and want to say, I'm a son of the Confederacy or whatever the case may be. I think they lack a very common sense view of what the Confederacy really was. This was a split in our nation of people who said a state should have the right to hold people as property, and those people shouldn't be allowed basic human rights. And you had other states who said absolutely not. And the states that said absolutely not were Republican controlled, and the states that said absolutely were Democrats. Now, to bring it all home, I would tell you there's just an easy correlation to be noticed between modern Democrats and the Democrats of old, of pre-antebellum. These are people who want other people to be subjects to a higher power. By that, I mean not free men subject to the power of God, but servants subject to the power of the government or the strong or the mighty. Think about how often people tell you how smart Socrates and Plato were. Those guys were absolute buffoons, okay?
This is really good at saying the same thing 1,000 different ways.
Over and over, right? But if you look at the probably most respected piece of work, it's the Republic, right? And in the Republic, if you don't know, Plato basically recaps time he spent with Socrates talking about how to get to the perfect civilization. And the conclusion is, we philosopher kings, the smart people, the philosopher kings, must lie to everyone else and seize power and then put everyone in their appropriate place. So in Plato and Socrates' world, everyone but them was a slave to people like them. Those weren't good people. Those were not good. Those were backward-thinking Neanderthal
so
people.
Smart.
The only thing I think Socrates got right was his debate method of just asking questions. Lead your opponent to the conclusion by asking them questions, and it seems as if it was their idea.
What do you mean?
Well, what I'm saying...
Oh, you see what I did there?
I did, see? And that's smart. So that's what they got right. But that is what academia teaching people to say, here's the thinkers you need to learn to think like. And it goes hand in hand with the idea. And look, I'm not saying modern Republicans are above reproach on this. The Republicans want people sucking from the government teat as much as possible as well because it keeps them employed.
No.
Yes. It's interesting.
What?
Politicians of all stripes have a vested interest in you being reliant on what they can offer. So if you can subsist without them, they are unemployed, and they don't want that. None of them want that.
I don't know if that's true, so I'm going to ask the government if it's true.
Right. See? It's working on you.
I think so to me, the way in my mind that the concept works of what you're talking about here is if you see the Confederate flag, right? So see that in your mind with me, okay?
Stars and bars.
Right. So what people, when you see it on the back of their car or their truck, or they're wearing a T-shirt that says Myrtle Beach underneath it, or whatever the case may be, that's not even really the Confederate flag. And so that to me is sort of the irony of the whole thing, is that the people that are latched onto that don't even know what the actual symbol of the Confederacy was. Does that make sense? So I guess I'm a little miffed at why people are so hung up on it.
Right.
Because it doesn't do anything for me.
Well, so I want to know why those people want to hang on to and celebrate the group of people who told the Union to take a hike. I want to know what it is. Are you telling me, well, it was for states' rights? Let's just say, okay, it wasn't about slavery. Let's say we remove the element of slavery from the equation. Then what states' rights were being violated to such a degree that the South cut itself off? What were they?
Right.
And I don't think the list is long. Maybe there's 2 or 3 other things. I think there really was like a tax that Lincoln enacted and blah, blah. But all of that started coming after the split. Like when you started lining yourself up as a foreign nation that wasn't going to fund things and blah, blah. So you are, by flying that flag or wearing your shirt, you are clinging to a part of history where the country was so divided that we killed each other.
Now, I will say, you know, I'm a big fan of Robert E. Lee.
I know.
He's a great man. And you can disagree with me if you want.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
But if you look into his reasoning for joining the Confederacy, it didn't have anything to do with slavery. He actually stated that he could not fight what he called his own people, the people of Virginia. So his loyalty, if you will, was to the people of the state, not of the nation.
Gotcha. Not to the Confederacy, just to
So
Virginia.
it wasn't about, for him, slavery. It was about going to war with his next door neighbor.
Well,
if
look,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, put it in that context and look at it this way. Let's say, if you can, think about not having modern communication, but you have all your modern utilities, right? But not the communication we have. But you have your guns and you have your ammo and all that. And your neighbor comes to you and says, there's a group of people coming and they're going to try and burn down our homes. And you go, okay, yeah, I read in the paper that there's been some arguments, but I mean, are you sure there's going to be a fight? And he says to you, there's going to be a fight. I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a fight. We have to fight them off. What are you going to do?
Right.
You have to go on what you've heard. Like even now, with as much information as we take in, I might believe 10% of it. Most of what I read these days, I go, probably not true. And maybe it's because I'm cynical, but more so I think it's because I'm jaded.
You definitely are.
I am. But so much turns out to be untrue.
And you're definitely jaded.
Listen, I'll point something out to you. Right after Trump got elected, one of my cousins posted on her Facebook page this like list of hate crimes that had happened in the name of Trump. And I posted and said, I guarantee you they're all fake. They'll all prove to be fake. And she said, probably not, or whatever she said. And so throughout the next 2 or 3 days, I would go back and remind myself of the stories. And as they proved fake, one of them I remember for sure was the Muslim girl who claimed 2 guys in a Trump hat came up and ripped her hijab off her head.
Of course.
She got arrested and prosecuted, so I posted that. And then there was 2 and number 3 and number 4. And then my cousin responded and said, I don't understand what you're trying to prove by posting all these. Sure, some of them are false, but you can't deny that the sentiment is still there. I said, there is no sentiment. There's no sentiment.
I just did.
Yeah, that's the whole point. The sentiment is fabricated by your people. Your people are fabricating this notion that if you support Trump, you're a white supremacist who hates Muslims. It's just not true. It's not true. You're fabricating your own oppression. Saying that to say, that's why I normally just don't believe things. There's a local media personality here who does a morning show on the urban station, which means, the black people station. Sorry to be crude about it, but if you don't know, that's what they call black music radio stations. It's urban stations. They only play black artists. They only have black DJs. It's just the way that they do it. Urban stations. By the way,
racist.
It is racist because when Arbitron does the ratings, they get a free half point for every 1 point CHR top 40 stations get. Right? So,
what?
Yeah, it's
that's
part
real?
of that. Yeah, oh yeah, it's part of that.
That's a real thing.
Affirmative action. It happens in radio ratings. So when they walk in and tell you we're one of the most highest ranked radio stations in your market, well, you have to subtract a certain amount because they're actually giving points for free because they're an urban station. But here's my point. He posts false stuff all the time. And I've called him on the carpet many, many times and said, that's just not true. That's not true. It's not true. And a couple times he's gone, hey, you're right. Appreciate it. But then it stays. The damage is done. They are lying. The media personalities in the upstate are lying to you, most likely. The national news is definitely not right 100% of the time.
I'm still in shock at the fact that there's affirmative action in radio.
Absolutely. I bet it happens on TV, too.
That's exactly where I was going to go with this, because now I'm kind of wondering why they don't have, like, NBC Black.
Well, how do you think BET survives?
Well, no, right, but that's national.
I can tell you right now.
That's a national cable channel. I'm talking about why isn't there...
But wait.
I know there's the WB too. You don't have to go into all that.
No, you're right. What I'm saying is, legitimately, how do you think BET survives? What major corporations are... So, look, let's be real about it. Let's just play numbers, okay? The black population of America is about 13% of the overall population, okay? And then you add in Hispanics, which I think are fighting for about the same number now, okay? So white people aren't exactly like 70, 80% of the population. If I'm not mistaken, we're more about 60, maybe 65, okay? So if you're playing the numbers game, you're going to try and find where everyone consumes. Where does everybody consume? What is everybody watching? Well, most likely everyone is watching some form of cable network news. Right? So you're buying on CNN, you're probably buying a little bit on MSNBC, and you're certainly buying on Fox News. Then the guy that sells BET walks in. Actually, let me start back. Not the news. You would assume most everyone's watching MTV and VH1. Let's use those, okay? Is VH1 still a thing?
I was about to ask you the same question.
I don't even know.
No idea.
I just showed my age, huh? All right. Maybe I won't have a good analogy. But here's my point. Let's assume let's assume VH1 still exists, and you're buying VH1 and MTV.
They do have a website.
There you go. So pop-up video's playing, just to really date myself here, and then your commercial comes on.
I'd probably still watch VH1 if they had pop-up video, but of course there's no music videos. So what? I mean,
what are they going to pop up on?
Never mind. Well, sorry, I brought it up.
You know what? Though at this point, they could do reruns, and it'd be like first time all over again.
That's true.
So. Let's just, for the sake of argument here, you're buying MTV, you're buying VH1. Well, then the guy from BET walks in. And for the record, this is a legitimate tactic in upstate South Carolina radio that the guy who was using tried to use to get my brother fired at one point. I'll leave it at that. But the guy from BET walks in and he goes, hey, I saw your commercial run on MTV and VH1. I'm here from BET. And as the business owner, you say, okay, well, let me see your ratings. Right. No. We're BET. We're Black Entertainment Television. How much ads, how much ad dollars do you have to spend with me? And you go, well, what's your budget? I'm not going to tell you my budget. I want to know how much of your budget you're spending with MTV and VH1, and I want to know why you're not spending it with the black community. And you go, right. It's not that I'm not spending with the black community. I wonder if your ratings are as good as theirs. Oh, they're just as good. I can guarantee you our ratings are just as good. Why aren't you spending money with us? And I'm going to tell you this. If you don't spend money with us, I'm going to make sure people know that you don't do business with the black-owned radio stations and TV networks. So what do? You've been shaken down.
Yeah.
And you give them your money. And it is a legitimate tactic that gets used. It's what Jesse Jackson does for a living. We all know that. But I'm telling you, even in the upstate of South Carolina, at the local radio level, there are people in charge of full stations that once employed that tactic.
That makes my brain hurt.
Yep, it's true.
I just looked it up because apparently VH1 is still a thing.
That's cool.
And here's why you probably don't know that it is. Okay. I'm going to read you a list of all the current shows. You ready for this?
On VH1?
On VH1. These are the current shows they're running.
Can I wait. Before we do it, can I guess the top
Pop-up
three?
video is not one,
all right,
just so you know.
All right, let me guess the top three, though. Right?
All right, go ahead.
Jersey Shore, The Reunion.
No, sir.
Okay. Let me try again. Flava Flav does rehab. Deuce.
Is he still alive?
Did he die?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
We're so up on pop culture.
But I'm guessing that's a no. Okay.
A no.
All right. Number three. I'm going to go with Where Are They Now? Obama Children Edition.
If you had picked RuPaul's Drag Race, you would have been correct.
I got
that was going to be your next choice, I'm sure.
I got to tell you, you're not going to believe this. But in my head, I was thinking, don't say RuPaul. Because then they'll know you know who that is.
You got RuPaul's Drag Race.
Okay.
And just chime in whenever you heard of one of these, okay? Mm-hmm. Dear Mama. Love and Hip Hop in Atlanta. Basketball Wives. T.I. and Tiny, The Family Hustle. Black Ink Crew. Hip Hop Squares. The Breaks. Love and Hip Hop. And Brunch with Tiffany.
Do I get to talk even though I don't know what any of them
No,
are?
go ahead.
You know, it's one of those, I'm having that moment. Do you have this happen where you have a thought in your head and then you go, my word, I've become my parents.
Yeah, actually I do.
So you read that off and I go, what is this garbage kids are putting in their heads? I have to go block those channels immediately. And then I think, my goodness, I've become my mother. But you really do start to understand it. Like you begin a true sense of empathy with your parents, because when you're growing up, you just think your parents are curmudgeons. You know, oh, they don't have any fun. Oh, you know, they don't want to do this, or oh, they go to bed at 9 o'clock. Losers. You know, I can stay out till 2 in the morning. My parents, man, they don't know nothing. Watch me. And then you grow up and you realize, first of all, man, if I could go to bed at 9 o'clock and not have to get up the next morning, in the sense of no kids spitting in my face, or you know, Dad, Abram pooped his diaper and put his hand in it type stuff. It's a legit story. If that could be the thing, man, wouldn't that be awesome? So you start to get where your parents were coming from, and then you hear there's a TV show called The Drag Queen's Drag Race, and you go, what has the world become? What are we filling our minds with when this is even a thing? When this is even possible of being a man who dresses as a woman?
It's understandable that you don't watch RuPaul's Drag Race. Here's where I'm a little miffed. You don't watch Black Ink Crew?
No. Is that about the Bic Ink Pen Corporation?
No, Black, not Bic.
Right, I understand. But I'm saying maybe there's an inner squabble about like the guys that put together the black ink pens, and there's guys that put together the blue ink pens, and they hate each other, and there's a reality show about it.
That would be a cool show.
My money says it would be much more interesting than whatever that's actually about that you're talking about.
This is a show. Just
give me the synopsis.
I'm just telling you what I see here. It looks like there's 2 guys and 2 girls.
Right.
All black.
What?
That run a tattoo shop. I don't know why you're not watching that, Chris.
Okay.
I mean, what do you do with all your spare time? All that free time you've got with 3 kids.
Yep. I really, if anybody ever says Kris is really racist, I want to be real clear about something. The black community of America is full of good, loving, decent people. But you all need to understand that the black community in America has a terrible PR problem. A terrible PR problem.
I blame Bill Cosby.
That and...
Now, a couple years ago, I wouldn't have said that. But just saying.
Now you can. Yeah. And stuff like... My point is, stuff like that doesn't help. It just doesn't help because... Anyway, I know there's white trash TV shows, and the white community looks stupid on TV too. But I think there's a redemptive quality to like normalcy being present, whereas the alternative for Black America is what? Like, they don't do TV shows, and the Cosby Show would actually, unfortunately, be a great example. If you remember when we had the Cosby Show was big, but then you had what was the Steve Urkel show called? A Different World was a spinoff of the Cosby Show, and that was an excellent show that dealt with racial issues and some kind of progressive ideology type stuff. But what was the
Family Matters?
Thank you, Family Matters. You had a normal black family doing normal people things that had the quirky neighbor kid and the pretty daughter.
That and the Cosby Show weren't about race, though,
That's
if I
my
remember
point.
correctly.
But that's my point. They were about what we really deal with in life. Everybody knows loss. Everybody knows envy. Everybody knows anger. We know these things. And now there's this hijacking of the culture where they fabricate this idea that everyone's out for you because you're black, or everyone's out for you because you're queer, or because you're lesbian, or because you're gay, or whatever it is. And no, I wasn't being rude when I said queer. It's what they call themselves, LGBTQ, okay? So if you're queer, you're gay, or whatever the case may be, I shouldn't have to hear about it. I shouldn't. You do you and your boyfriend, and let me and my family just watch TV and do the universal things we can all agree with and go back to just creating some normalcy in our culture, just normalcy in the culture. Please.
I don't think they want that, though.
No, of course not. They're driving their agenda. And my point is that is a terrible, terrible PR problem for the black community and really for the gay community as well. I'm saying black because that's what we're on, but it's a terrible thing for the gay community as well. I had lunch with a friend a couple weeks ago, and we got into a conversation about... I mean, he might know one gay guy that he spends a lot of time with. I get it, okay? But he was on fire because I was talking about the fact that transgender is a mental disorder. It just is. It's a psychosis. He was a little upset that I was saying that. We got on to talk about my homosexual friends, and I made the point that, I don't have any close friends who are gay that would tell you they were born that way. Because I could go through the rundown, like I did with him, and tell you their personal information and things I know about them and who they've become. I know gay men who lived an openly gay lifestyle and are now married to women with children. Okay? That is a thing. The point is, you wouldn't believe that, or I'm made to sound bigoted for saying it because there's such a PR problem in the culture of the gay community where they've allowed the crazies to take the microphone and be the public voice for their cause. We all need to stop that. White Americans need to stop the crazy Trump supporters from getting on TV. Black Americans need to stop Al Sharpton. The gay community needs to stop probably 99% of the gay people on TV. Perez Hilton, Bruce Jenner, all these people, they should be stopped. It doesn't do anybody any good, and I think it's, what's the word I'm looking for? It degrades the entire culture, but I can't come up with the word. All right, let's move along. Enough is enough on that. Ladies and gentlemen, we talked about Springfield last week, and I defended them, but I cannot defend them anymore. North Korea says it wants to attack America with EMPs, and I'm supposing Springfield is going to sell them to them. Is that wrong?
No, they're going to limit it. They're going to limit them to 9 EMPs.
This is on The Truth About Guns. I'm reading it right now next to the Springfield banner ad that keeps popping up. North Korea prepping EMP catastrophe aimed at U.S. home front. EMP, enhanced micro pistol. Am I wrong?
I think that's it. Yeah,
So they're going to attack us with 3-inch 9mm,
1911s. Yeah.
9-round mags that really have feeding issues that need to be worked out before they make many more.
Crappy
Quite
fiber
frankly.
optic sites too.
Yeah. What Springfield? What happened there? Like you had such a good run with the EMP until about 2 years ago when you said, you know what we'll do? We'll do it cheaper and not as good. All right, legitimately, this is from Breitbart. And congressional expert says North Korea is prepping an EMP attack, that's electromagnetic pulse, if you ain't cool enough to know, aimed at the U.S. home front. There's a lot to unwrap here, but we're going to go quick because we still have gun news to get to, and I think it's more exciting than this, but I do think it's worth wondering out loud about a couple of things. Dr. Peter Vincent Pry is executive director of the Task Force on National and Homeland Security and is the chief of staff of the Congressional EMP Commission. Who knew there was such a thing? Pry says 2 North Korean satellites are currently orbiting the U.S. at trajectories he says are optimized for a surprised EMP attack. Pry says, quote, I just lost it. They are positioning themselves as sort of a nuclear missile age, cyber age version of the battleship diplomacy, in my view, so that they can always have one of them very close to being over the U.S. Then, if a crisis comes up, and if we decide to attack North Korea, Kim Jong-un can threaten our president and say, well, don't do that because we are going to burn your whole country down, which is basically what he said. If you wanted to win a new Korean war, added Pry, one of the things you would certainly consider doing is taking out the U.S. homeland itself. Pry surmised the North Koreans may be taking the idea from a Soviet plan during the Cold War to attack the U.S. with an EMP as part of a larger surprise assault aimed at crippling the U.S. military. All right. Can I ask the obvious question?
Please.
Why have we not shot those satellites out of the sky yet?
That's what I've been trying to figure out this whole time, man.
If we know they're up there, go get them. We have missiles with pinpoint accuracy. We have the mother of all bombs. Send Superman up there with the nuke, throw it into the stratosphere, and it destroys everything around. Something like that. Like, how are we even allowing this to be a thing? Second of all, why is this dude telling the world that we know it's a thing? Like, shouldn't we not let them know that we know? Isn't it something we'd want to keep under wraps? You don't
Probably be a good idea.
If you know the guy's coming to rob your house tonight, you don't go out and tell him, hey, man, listen, I know you're coming tonight, and I'm going to kill you when you get inside. Because then he's just going to do it some other time. He's going to find another way to surprise you. Why? I'm at a complete loss for why this is even printed material and how it's even a circumstance we're in the first place.
It's pretty bizarre. And I think it's almost more bizarre to think that they would attempt to take us out with an EMP to invade mainland United States.
Right.
The reason I say that, population of North Korea is about 25.5 million.
Easy.
Population of the U.S., 321.4 million.
Right.
Number of guns sold in the U.S. in a 6-month period. So the first half of 2016. Take a guess.
First half of 2016.
This is Nick's background checks.
Ooh.
Which means probably more guns than actual background checks.
Okay,
well, let's just say, for the sake of argument, we'll say 1 gun for every background check.
I think 40 million.
It was actually 10.5 million.
Ah, man. I was being optimistic there.
Right. So let's just double that.
Okay.
And let's call it
21
million in 2016. So we almost bought, as civilians, the number of guns equal to their population. Almost.
Not to mention, that does not
in
include,
a year.
And, yes. And to be clear, the reason you pointed out it's NICS checks is because if you have a concealed weapons permit in a lot of states, you don't get run through NICS.
Exactly.
And you could have taken home 4 or 5 firearms at that time, and the federal government has no idea you took them. You do the paperwork, they take all your information down, but you're not required to go through the FBI's background check because you've gone through a more stringent background check in order to get your carry permit in a lot of states. I would doubt it's, I don't know. I won't speak out of turn, but I know in South Carolina it's that way. So,
if you remember, General Yamamoto of Japan in World War II said he wouldn't invade mainland U.S. because behind every blade of grass would be a man with a rifle.
That's right.
Apparently, Kim Jong Pantsuit has not figured that out yet.
Do you think he and Hillary share a stylist? It's a good point.
Absolutely.
It's a good point to delve into.
You ever seen the
one
meme
day.
with it's like him, his old man, Hillary, and Dr. Evil?
Who wore it better?
It's
What
like,
it says?
yeah,
That's
something to that effect.
No, but I'd believe it. Listen, can we just agree that we kill this guy and get it over with?
What the hell are we waiting on?
Kill him, kill everyone around him, and then set the people of North Korea free and allow the South to just take over. South Korea's got it right. I think they're doing it. It's not like people that live in North Korea are really happy to be there. They are brainwashed, and as soon as they find out a Western world exists, they try to leave.
You remember I was watching a documentary the other day I told you about North Korea and how just absolutely bizarre that place is.
Yeah.
About how there are stores all over the place full to the brim of consumer goods. Everything from clothing to beer, bottled water, you name it. They got it all, but none of it is for sale. It is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Right. Probably existing purely for propaganda.
It's all for show.
So when the foreigners come over to visit and film, that's where they get taken, right?
Yep.
Poor North Koreans, man. Really, seriously. Kill the dude. Kill all of the military people around him and anybody not willing to surrender. Kill all of them and then hand power over to South Koreans and call it a day. Big deal. All right, some gun news. We'll go down it somewhat quickly. About 5 things to hit here. If you'll be ready with the Naval Surface Warfare Center article, we'll get to that in just a second, Patty. This is just an FYI. The FN 509, if you haven't seen our video on that, you can find it at feltrecoilshow.com. It has hit the interwebs. It's on Cheaper Than Dirt today for $549.99. So it's good. I'm only telling you that so you know a ballpark of what I think is going to be one of the better guns of the next couple years. $550 is a great place to start, man. That's good. It's good to hear.
And I've had a lot of conversations with guys whose opinions I respect on all matters firearms, who are in full agreement that this was a natural progression for FN, and they're doing the right thing with this gun, and they beefed it up, made the slide a little bit easier to manipulate and that sort of thing, and they're really happy with it, and I think it's going to be a serious contender in the market. Whereas the FNS9, kind of not really the first thing you're going to think of when you go to the store.
Sure.
You're going to look at some other things first.
But a great gun nonetheless.
Yeah, still a great gun,
Yeah,
but it just didn't have the wow factor, maybe.
Yeah.
As corny as that might sound.
No, I think you're right. Glock, not to be outdone, has officially released the Summer Edition Gen 4s. You can get your Gen 4 19 or 17 now with front slide serrations. We've already hinted at that and talked about how weird that is, that that's a thing, but it's now officially available. And then, number 3 on the list, the Naval Surface Warfare Center says Keymod is stupid.
Sort of.
Oh, I thought that was an exact quote.
Well, you'll be disappointed.
Oh, okay.
Not an exact quote, but what they are saying is that M-Lock is maybe better for what they're looking for. And what they did was they grabbed a couple of different brands who make a key mod and an M-Lock rail more or less the same, and they put those up to the test to see which one would basically hold up better in terms of if we put something on and took it off, would it hold the same zero? And also if I think they put it through a drop test and basically wanted to see how strong they are. And it looks like the M-Lock stuff edged Keymod out in terms of repeatability in zero, but also in terms of the drop test. So the drop test did not work out so well for the Keymod stuff. It looks like it got beat up pretty bad. They both have shift. They both are not, and neither one of them is 100% on every time. So to me, that leaves a little bit of a question mark. And in full disclosure, I like Keymod. I think it's a lot easier to use. So, and I do have some stuff with both. If it was up to me, I would just keep buying Keymod. It's just easier to use.
The drop test, they were trying to see what would rip out of place, basically.
More
right?
or less, yeah.
Okay.
And would the handguard hold up? Now,
who'd they use? Did they tell us?
Well, that's where I was going. So if I'm being real honest, they used Aero Precision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Midwest Industries.
Yeah.
What I mean, come on.
Right.
And Seekins Precision.
Okay.
So
Seekins,
one may be respectable out of the group.
Yeah, I would take Seekins any day of the week.
But I feel like there's probably a whole bunch of other brands out there they probably could have used.
Well, I mean, Daniel Defense does both. Wouldn't you want to try theirs?
There you go.
Some high-dollar precision stuff.
And some of their rails are
FN.
already in use with SOCOM.
Yeah, FN as well, providing guns already to the military. I'm sure they have both, I would think.
Maybe.
Can't say that for sure, but I'd be surprised to find out they don't.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway was, like I said, Keymod was kind of edged out in favor of M-Lock.
It's another one of those things you just can't get too worked up about because at the end of the day, we're all creating recreational rifles. And you can talk about having your battle rifle and you can make that the thing you focus on. And so if this influences that decision, then by all means go for it.
And the butt hurt is like crazy with this thing because all the guys who are super bought into Keymod,
me,
are just, and myself,
right,
are really worked up about it. I'm not really worked up about it because my stuff still works just fine.
Right.
I'm not going to be throwing mine off the roof or anything like that, or at least I don't plan to. So at the end of the day, this doesn't really matter to me.
Right.
But I can already see all the guys showing up at the gun stores here in the next couple of weeks going, well, I mean, you know, Crane says that M-Lock's better, so, I mean,
Then
that's
buy
what I
it.
want.
Hey, man,
Yeah,
all
go
day
for it.
long. Here you go. More for me. It's like all the guys buying the 320s because, well, I heard it's modular. It is. Literally, this happened to me. Please don't think I'm exaggerating. Hey, is that the 320? It is. That's the modular one, right? It is. What is modular? Yeah. I know, man. I know. You should read the whole argument. You know, read the whole article, not just the headline. But, all right. Well, kudos to Magpul, man. I mean, good for you. If you're a Magpul fan, that's perfect. I'm just not. Like, yeah, half the reason I don't buy M-Lock is because Magpul, I don't understand who Magpul is anymore because now they make, like, purses and high heel shoes.
Hula Girl t-shirts are all the rage, man.
Right. I don't really understand where they're going with the company. They don't, to me, and again, just to me, if you want to be taken seriously as someone who creates a battle-proven firearm, you don't do T-shirts, wallets, belts, gloves,
you
and
probably
all
heard
that.
me say this before. I used to work in the ski industry, and I remember when North Face made bomb-proof tents and backpacks, things of that nature. And then all of a sudden, they started making sunglasses and bicycles, and you could get a Chevy Avalanche North Face edition, and every girl on the college campus was wearing a Denali fleece.
Of course.
And their quality went to crap. So I'm always very suspicious of companies that try to branch out and do things that they're not really known for.
Yeah. Too many channels.
And I think that's sort of where you're going with that. But
Yeah.
that's just my sentiment.
That's where Magpul, for like 2 or 3 weeks recently, rolled out a different type of glove every day. Or
That was about a year ago, I think.
about a year. And then what else did they do? They did like...
Well, they did pants and stuff like
Belt,
that. And
yeah.
so this is where Magpul really lost me, okay?
Okay.
Because I think they historically have made pretty good stuff. But this is where they really, really lost me. Is they came out with some pants. I said, okay, they're going to come out with pants. I can deal with that. That's not a big deal. And maybe they'll be great. And then some representative from Magpul decided to be real smart to get on the interwebs and compare them to Arc'teryx.
Say what now?
And Kris, as you well know, I'm a pretty big fan of Arc'teryx.
I had no clue.
I know. Hard to wrap your head around. So when they started making that comparison, I was like, all right, well, now I got to do my research. I got to find out. Because if you're going to make that claim, you better be able to back
made
it
the
up.
Claim? Remind me.
Somebody posting from a Magpul account on some forums.
Oh,
Right.
that was stupid.
Correct.
If you don't know, Arc'teryx is a high-end, durable, basically outerwear company. They make climbing pants, climbing belts, climbing shoes. They make clothing that is tough enough for Everest. Think of it that way.
There you go.
And it's also super comfortable. It's largely always waterproof, durable. I have a few pairs of their pants that I wear as a habit. So that's who Arc'teryx is.
It's not cheap.
That is highbrow stuff. No, it's not. It's not.
It's high-end stuff, but it also comes with a lifetime warranty, which I've used before, and it's fantastic. We could do a whole show just on Arc'teryx stuff and their warranty and how much I love it.
I mean,
Probably how much you love it too.
You're talking about the seam coming out of your jacket, and you send it back, and they send it to you back like new,
in 2 weeks.
no charge. So, all right. So somebody compared Magpool's clothing, and
Someone that worked for Magpool was making that comparison, which I thought, all right, well, let's see if that's realistic, and it's just not.
Yeah.
So that's a bold claim. That's like Ford coming out with a new little sports car and be like, I mean, it's pretty close to Ferrari.
Right.
That to me, that's realistically, that's what it was like.
I mean, if you slow down, the Fiesta is like the Aston Martin in the sense that there's an A in each name.
And there's 4 wheels.
Yeah, I mean, and
2 pant legs, zipper,
right,
couple belt loops.
pockets.
They're basically the same.
I mean, they make black pants. We make black pants. I don't really understand what the confusion is, Yulon. All right.
So what? Before we move on,
Yes, sir.
you keeping your key mod?
So I'm going to speak without concern for the trolls. So here goes.
Wait, are we supposed to be doing that?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, I don't.
I built my home defense rifle as
You mean shotgun?
nope, it's a rifle. It's a 300 black suppressed.
What?
Yep. And I built that on the working assumption that I'm highly, highly unlikely to ever use it. I mean, the chances of me ever using it are so slim because here's what I recognize. A, it rarely happens to anybody. B, break-ins most commonly occur on empty homes during the middle of the day, and that doesn't exist in my world. There is no empty Vermilion house in the middle of the day. C, my wife is trained in how to use all the guns. She's better than I am with them. And D, I'm going to have a group of kids growing up ready and willing to use them as well. I don't think my guns will ever be used in a defensive environment. But I say that knowing that the 1% exists. If in the vastly unlikely scenario that someone comes in the door tonight, I am 1,000% confident that my rifle will get the job done, regardless of key mod, regardless of M-lock, regardless of standard drop-in system. I have taken it out within the last week and fired several rounds through it. I'm very, very confident it'll work. And to me, that's what's most important. Have you taken it out recently? Have you used it? Do you know it's going to work? It's like the EOTech thing. Everybody got worked up about the EOTech recall because in negative 32 degrees, it would shift, and it shifted vastly. That was
my
crazy.
point of impact shifted, sis.
Yeah, it's going to shift 2 inches on me. Well, that's a big deal if you're killing ISIS in Antarctica, but you are shooting guns in Easley, South Carolina right now. It doesn't affect you at all. Well, I want my money back. Okay, get your money back, but you're bringing back one of the best optics you can buy based on a variable that will never, ever affect you.
I just got my refund from my Ecotech.
Right.
Think I'm going to pick up this here Burris.
I think I've met the guy whose impression you're doing right now. All right, so finally and least importantly, out of the world of yawn, that's YAWN, Taurus introduced the T4SA rifle at the NRA annual meetings with the tagline, precisely tuned and engineered. Now, as you might recall, last week we hit on the fact that Taurus has knowingly sold guns to terrorists. Taurus made money by selling guns to people trying to kill American soldiers. So, of course, the article goes this way from Soldier Systems Daily. Taurus USA introduced its new AR-style rifle at NRAM, that's NRA annual meetings, called the T4SA. By the way, this day and age, who's the marketing guy that they're like, what are we going to name this rifle? And they go, what are we going to call it? T4SA. And he didn't go, right, so have you guys heard of the TSA? Is everybody here familiar with that? Yeah. How about we not put those letters in our new rifle's name. I would avoid. I understand what you're saying here. It's Taurus 4 SA. I get it, but I would. So again, TSA, not liked. Okay, probably approval rating of none. I would avoid it, but they didn't. All right, back to the story. Seems an odd time to release an AR. No kidding, considering the current market glut. However, they've treated the weapon's critical components with melanite and displayed a rifle that had fired over 6,500 rounds with no lubricant. Additionally, wait for it, you can get it Cerakoted in jungle green and sand color. Below is the press release. By the way, if you're not reading soldiersystems.net every day, you should be. Based on the iconic M4 platform, oh, no kidding. The Taurus T4SA is a lightweight gas impingement 5.56 semi-auto that was engineered and manufactured entirely in the U.S. Features include a forged upper receiver that includes T-mark reference points, like every other rifle in the world. It comes standard with a lightweight, low-profile key mod or M-lock aluminum handguard. Additionally, the Taurus T4SA utilizes an M16 style bolt carrier, which reduces the recoil pulse during firing, blah, blah, blah. It's a 1.7 twist, chambered in 5.56. Has a dual-pinned melanite low-profile gas block that replaces standard fixed front sight post gas blocks. So basically what they're telling you is they're giving you a free float rifle with a low-pro gas block. Blah, blah, blah. Mil-spec buffer tube, recoil spring. I'm not seeing if it's carbine or mid-length off the shelf on the gas system. Did I miss that? They're not telling us.
I don't see it.
Must be carbine length. Has a dual-pinned melanite low-profile gas block. That's all it says. All right, well, I'm guessing we'll just go with carbine, but they don't tell us. Taurus, nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. The website is TaurusT4.com. TaurusT4.com if you want to check it out.
Would you consider the fact that you're breaking this news an apology that we didn't get a video with them while we were at the show?
Apology for what?
Well, because we didn't break this huge story.
Here's what you need to know. If you don't like what you hear here, I would never come back again. Had I seen...
No, he means it.
I don't recall seeing the Taurus booth, but had I seen it, I'd have probably made snarky comments and kept walking.
I saw it, but I black out a lot.
I would have had zero interest in stopping and talking to them. I feel for the people that work at Taurus because they have to make their living. And now you're in that position where you're feeding your family through the check from Taurus, but you know that check comes from a company who supplied terrorists with guns. And you have to make that call. You have to make that decision whether you're going to work there or not. So I'm not one to tell you have to quit, but I'm saying you should probably be looking at the very least because Taurus is a terrible
Could you imagine
company.
being the salesman for Taurus? And you got to go. You got to go into the gun shop and try to sell them. And you're like, "Hey, I'm Carl from Taurus. I know we did the whole thing where we were selling arms to Yemeni terrorists, and I, just for the record, I personally had nothing to do with that. Hey, take a look at this curve."
I'll tell you what we did. We recalled all the curves and we made them legal. If you remember, Taurus introduced the curve and didn't stamp the caliber on any of the barrels.
Which is required by federal law.
You have to do by law, and they didn't do it. Dummies. It's probably even worse when you just drop in and the store manager's like, man, I kind of have a prior engagement, and you're like, he's just blowing me off. Listen, I know Taurus has got a bad history, and he's like, no, listen, I understand. Maybe we could, no, hear me out. And then dude from Trichicon walks up, and he's like, hey, man, you want to talk optics?
I thought you were going to say dude from High Point walks up.
No, even worse. No, what I'm saying is somebody from a better company walks up.
No, but at least, okay, right. But, think about it. High Point, we don't know that they've ever sold guns to terrorists.
That's for
real. I'll give them that.
Although I do put gang members on the same level as terrorists, and I've seen where the high points get recovered.
Fair enough.
Actually, not fair enough. To be clear, there was a woman, I think, in New Jersey recently who saved her family by using a high point. Kudos to her. If it works, it works. Just as long as it's not Taurus. All right, well, that's it for this chicanery. I'm about to sneeze, so we should probably get out of here quickly.
All right.
Told you. Next week is number 26. In the meantime, in between time, check out feltrecoilshow.com. see Patrick take you to school and give you the ACOG 101 course. It's absolutely free. Swing on by. Check out all the charities we support and that we encourage you to support as well under the Charities of Choice banner. All the gear and books and everything else we've mentioned you can find under the gear page. Just click right there. We've already found it on Amazon for you. You can support the show by buying through those links. Love you, mean it. See you next time.
This is Felt Recoil.